Hello, welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to show you how we were able to use Clay to create some very unique personalization as well as do some signaling for one of our clients. So here was the strategy. So we wanted to launch an outbound email campaign for them, and we wanted to leverage four types of signals. So the first signal was just building the data set based on just pure intent from our database based on certain keywords that they've recognized as keywords that indicate their client, the individuals are potentially in the market for their solutions. And then signal 2, 3, and 4 is basically looking for individuals who have appeared on a podcast as guests, which suggests that they might be interested. By the way, what this client does is that they help consultants, coaches, experts to amplify their messaging using press as a way to get in front of more of the ideal clients to build authority. So one of the signals was if a person was appearing on a podcast, it meant that they are in the market of trying to expand and amplify their voice. Also, the third signal was if they were already posting and creating content on LinkedIn, it indicates that they're trying to get their voice out there and get that authority. And then the last signal was if they have any job posting, whether it's on their website or on their LinkedIn, that indicates that they are hiring for sales or marketing roles, again, which indicates focus on growth, making them a potential for the clients. So what we did here was we created what the final email would look like. So this was for Signal 1, for Signal 2 around podcast. Basically, we wanted to say, hey, first name, basically want to personalize this first line by saying, I noticed from your LinkedIn that you're doing amazing work with, and this is the variable. Want to extract something personalized from their LinkedIn summary. And then I saw that you featured on whatever podcast we found. And so we basically created these templates based on podcast guest appearance, based on something that we saw them creating on LinkedIn. So I saw your recent LinkedIn post about whatever that LinkedIn post was, and then have the rest of the messaging. And then hiring for sales role. Again, the idea was to say, I noticed from your sales posting on LinkedIn that you're expanding your team with whatever role it is. So the goal here is we want to create and find all those signals and then personalize the message so that each person getting the message will receive something very unique to them. So here's how we did that using Clay. So here is a sample of the data that we use to get this process started. So all this data came from Outreach Genius, where we have all this information, and we pulled this from the intense data, and these were some of the topics and categories we were looking for. So people who were looking for some of these specific topics, this is what the client was interested in. And based on all of this information, we're then trying to build all the personalization from the strategy here that we've identified. So if you look here, the first thing we did was we basically cleaned up the data here. And the first thing we did was to identify if this person was truly an ICP of the client. And we had certain formulas that were defined here to indicate that this company, this individual is an ideal client. And basically, we're checking if the description for their company has any of the word consulting, coaching, services, mentorship, agency, solutions, all that information. And this is where the AI generated all of the specific keywords that indicated that this person is in the ICP. As you can see here, they have the specific keywords that indicates that they are the ICP of this client. So that was the first thing we did, making sure that this person is in the ICP. And for example, this person was not in the ICP, so that's the result was false there. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we wanted to understand the company mission and have a summary of the company mission. So what we did was we combined this integration with ChatGPT, and we created a custom prompt and says, using the input, summarize the company mission in one sentence, and where possible, make a reference for who they are serving, that is their ideal clients. Please use easy to understand words. And we basically gave it a set of instructions, and the variable was something we pulled from the company description, which we got from Outreach Genius. And we gave instructions specifically on how you should extract this company mission information. And if we look at the results here, you will see here that what the result here was. Hey, I was on your LinkedIn and noticed the great work you're doing with improving operations for diverse industries worldwide. And then we had this follow-up messages based on the strategy we defined in the email copy here. So let me just show you what we did here. So we were trying to say something like, I was on your LinkedIn and noticed the great work you're doing with whatever the great work is, and then I refer as your main growth strategy. So that is essentially what we're trying to do here, right? So basically we had a strategy and then we're automating it at scale. And if I show you on that one here, so let's have a look at this one here. This one here, I was on your LinkedIn and noticed the great work you're doing with helping investors find top franchise opportunities. So again, this is very personalized to that in specific individual. And if we go and just find one more example, so this would be an example here. I was on your LinkedIn and noticed great work you're doing with helping small businesses and entrepreneurs on the Central Coast. I refer as the main growth strategy. So this is again how we'll automate just writing out the company mission at scale. So that's that. Now, the second thing we wanted to do was we wanted to find out which of these individuals have appeared on a podcast. Again, that's based on this strategy here on podcast guest appearances. So we can then personalize the message based on the podcast that they've been on. And what we've done here is we deployed an AI agent. And in this AI agent, we basically gave it some instructions. We said, find a podcast that the person with the following information has been on. If any of that information is missing or incomplete, just work with what you have. And we gave it the first name, which is from Outreach Genius, the job title, and the company name. And we gave it some very specific information about how we should find a podcast, check listennotes.com, and do a whole bunch of different things. And we just gave it a very, very robust instruction and then deploy that. And a lot of people, he couldn't find a podcast, but he did find a couple here. So we can just go back here. So he found the results of Fran Talk with Success Franchise Advisor. So that was a podcast. And if we look at all the reason here, this is basically how it got to find the podcast. And we even have the steps it took to basically search on Google based on the name of these individuals. And then it visited this website and that website and that website. And that's how it came across finding that podcast for that individual. And then based on the instructions of the prompt we gave it, this is basically the name of the podcast. And, there was also another one that I found. So this would be on that one here. So if you open this one here again, Craft of Consulting Podcast, and it gave us all the information about how it got it. So this is basically called an AI agent, basically going out into the internet and doing all these instructions for us. And then we wanted to create a messaging around that. So basically, we wanted to go in here and then create this messaging here, right? That uses the information it got about the podcast and be able to put email into it. And that's kind of what we have here. So what we've done here is we basically then created a prompt. So if I just go edit the column here, we created a prompt and says, using this input by the podcast, this prospect was on here. Basically, we transferred all the information from I said, create a personalized email icebreaker, and the icebreaker should acknowledge the company's mission and reference the podcast appearance, focus on the name, and we basically give it all the instructions of how we should generate the message and everything you should say. I also saw that you were featured on this podcast name and this podcast number. So we gave it specific instructions of how we should create the message, leveraging all the insights we've generated. And here's an example of the final message generated. I was on your LinkedIn. I noticed the great work you're doing with helping investors find top franchise companies. So that's about the individual. And then I also saw that you were featured on Fran Talk with Success Advisors, which seems to focus on discussing franchising and understanding earning claims. And then it has all this information. So again, it created all of that personalized for each individual. And again, it did that here as well. So I was on your LinkedIn. I noticed the great work you're doing empowering women through supportive workspaces and community. And then it talked about the podcast that they were on. And also it talks about, how that's fantastic for building authority, which is again, the strategy that we have here. So whatever strategy we have here, we can basically build it using all of these AI workflows. And that's what that looks like. Now, the next thing we wanted to do was we wanted to work on the next strategy, which is hiring for sales role. We want to find out, is this company actually hiring for salespeople right now? And the way to do that is to again deploy the AI agent through a series of specific instructions. instructions. And here's how we built out the instructions. So I said for the company with the company domain, which again we got from Outreach Genius, and the company's LinkedIn page, which we got from Outreach Genius, please identify if there are any current job openings specifically related to sales or marketing roles. And then we give it like very specific instructions on the types of roles that we're trying to focus on and how we should go find those individuals. And we gave it all of that specific instructions. And once we've done that, then the AI basically generates some results. So, for example, in this case here, the result was that there was no job offer or there was no job openings that fit that role. So, the result is no is a no. We did find some jobs that fitted the role. So, for example, this one here, the result is this company has two roles opened, and these are all the criteria around the role. And if we look at the steps taken, he just visited the website and the LinkedIn page and found that information, right? And if we tried a different example that has that result as well, let's have a look here to see if we have another one. Okay, I think it was just the one that found in this example here. And then what we wanted to do is we then want to use that information, which we have all this false and true here. We want to use that to then create the actual copy. So we then combine this with ChatGPT and provide it with some very, very specific instructions of how to generate the copy. So for the job description provided here, identify and extract the job titles. And then basically this is all the instructions to actually then create the email specific instructions. What that email did look like. So if I go in here, I'm just going to open the full copy of what the AI generated. So I noticed from your job posting online that you're expanding your team with the following roles, and then they outlined those roles, and then that was again specifically how we defined it right here. So that is basically how that was generated. So we do have more and more examples. This last example is mostly scraping their existing content on LinkedIn. So it goes into LinkedIn and we deploy this AI agent and say goes to LinkedIn and make sure you're only looking for the last 30 days and find the content that was created on their LinkedIn page. And this is the one post that was found over the last 30 days. And this was the specific content of the post. And then we use that specific content combining with the ChatGPT integration here to then create the actual copy. We give it all the instructions of what it should do. And then from there, we actually created the copy. And this is what the final icebreaker did look like. So I was on LinkedIn. I noticed great work you're doing with helping business owners earn more, regain their passion. I also saw that your recent post about this again what was the summary of the recent post, and then that was specific to the strategy we created here. So this is how we use a combination of Outreach Genius and Clay to create all these personalized messages, and then we then combined all of the emails at scale here, so it has like everything we need, and then this can then be exported for sending on Outreach Genius. So that's pretty much how that is done. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll speak soon.